spoke on the phone, right? About online teaching and sort of an extension from last time's live about the challenges we are facing, the also the insights we're having while teaching online. So, what we foresee in the near future in terms of teaching yoga and conducting online teacher training courses. What is our limited but honest perspective on that?
Yeah, true. I think this whole thing of it being the new norm is something that many of us have now sort of gotten into the flow of, right? I mean, we don't know exactly what to do and how to do it, but I think many of us have kind of waded through and we figured out, okay, this is what suits us or suits our individual style or our individual way of teaching, or maybe even what we're teaching has changed. So I think there have been a lot of asana teachers, but it's been a time for a lot of other kind of study for teachers as well.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So what do you think, Shobhit, now that, especially if we're talking about online teaching, we're both part of on YTT faculty. So, we're doing all of the teacher trainings and all of that. And there was a time when both of us come from such traditional teaching spaces that we couldn't fathom to some extent. How do you teach someone online? And now we have online teaching programs where both of us are faculty, and we are making that connection, aren't we?
Yes. So I think one thing I've learned in the last 3-4 months is that the constant need to adapt, because the more we hold on to our beliefs, I think the more difficult or challenging it will be for us to sort of blend into what's the need. Because in the end, we have to teach as per the need, right? And even how we have sort of catered the yogic approach from a classical to more of a modern approach. Yes, with some touch of tradition to it. But I've seen that a lot of purists are against it, and even we were initially, and I still have some of some reservations around it, especially the Yoga Nidra TTC and all that. But I think it's just a good stepping stone to learn how to adapt to what is the need. Because at least for the next few months, the schools and the shalas won't open, as per our knowledge, and we really need to adapt, because people will want to continue to learn yoga as practice and also how to teach. And about the quality, I'm not sure. I think it depends in the end about how receptive the practitioner is, their background of practice, and how comfortable we are in that process. But I think we're both sort of overcoming that skepticism to train teachers online.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because see, one of the things that we normally used to say is teaching online. When you're teaching a teacher, when you're training a teacher, and in asana, like even when we used to have our offline YTTs, we used to always think of, shouldn't a teacher have some kind of a background? Some kind of prior knowledge. And for an offline TTC, I remember, many of our colleagues would remember how I used to keep going on about this. I said, no, they should have something, something that gives them maybe that touch of experience, which says, this is what I want to do and this is why I'm here. But now with online TTCs, it's tricky. Because, okay, hang on a minute. So this is a work from home live situation, yeah. So okay. Anyway, so so the thing about having our teachers have the practice, or have some kind of background to learn, because in an online program, earlier, at least with offline, when they used to attend the regular classes, they have a teacher somewhere, an instructor in front of the class who tells them how the body is moving or to give them some feedback. Now, even that prior knowledge or that prior experience is entirely online, and even asana is difficult to actually completely monitor. So that's a tricky one. How do you think that will actually work for us? I'm still mulling over it. I'm still thinking.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a learning experience for all of us, and we were not sort of prepared to teach online. We had been trained in a way to teach in a group class, and sort of, but we were taught the modifications and variations as per the practitioner. So that application of that will remain, just that the medium, there won't be that sense of touch or the sense of, being in the same room. And that does take away some aspect of it, but I think now we don't have an option. And, but what is important is that, giving enough time to every practitioner. Maybe there'll be more of a hand holding required, more of perhaps more offline sessions, offline one-on-ones and mentoring. And secondly, also, the background needs to be, the foundation needs to be strong. So whoever is taking up online TTCs as a shala or a freelancer, they need to really, do a background check, have one-on-ones with the practitioners. And maybe if it was 6 months, say prerequisite to join TTC at a physical shala, maybe that should be a little higher, in my opinion. So that it's easier for both the practitioner to learn and absorb. Also, it's easier for the teacher to sort of share.
Shobhit, I just remembered, see now we've got our shalas and our studios that are open now from the 5th of August, right? And from all the feedback that I've been receiving, the turnout is very low, and because hygiene and concerns and all of these things are something that shala visitors and practitioners or prospective teachers are considering. It is something that they're thinking about. So, having that kind of an expectation also, because we don't know when things will return to normal, where people will actually actively say, I want to, come back to the school to practice, let alone learn. But I think this positions us in a very interesting space, because it gives us that opportunity to actually go to step away from that preconceived mold or that preconceived norm that this is what a TTC should entail, that when we come in to learn, that we are here to learn asanas, and that my body has to be there. Of course, when it comes to the philosophy, now our teacher himself used to tell us that, philosophy needs to have that personal connection. But you and I both know that our connection to that teacher goes beyond, a WhatsApp call or whatever it is, right? Yes. But that is a relationship that we have built over the years of being with him, right? Or even you and I, for that matter. It's a relationship that has gone beyond the YTT, right? It is not something that you set before. But I'm just thinking that maybe this is an opportunity for schools to revisit what is that yoga that we are actually sharing, or what is the yoga. Now, in fact, sometimes I just wish that we just build better sadhaks, like forget the TTC, but it is important at this point in time also, when we consider livelihood, and we say that because it's been such an immense tool for mental health, mental wellness. I can give you a real live example, and this happened just very recently, where I was faced with something that was very unexpected. Now, you know how I deal with unexpected situations, right? Especially if it's very, very unexpected. But I think I can't really tell, but I do remember that when that situation presented itself, my initial and my immediate response was very visceral and very reactive. And I wanted to, burst. I wanted to react, but I did pause. Right now, this is not a big show or whatever, but it is an observation that somewhere, because for the past many months, especially during this lockdown, there was a very conscious move to the practice, to the discipline, to sadhana. It was there. I know, I've told you also. So the practice has actually given a little bit of pause. And I put that on my Instagram post today. In fact, Uma said something very interesting. And so Uma said hi to you, Shobhit. So I promised her we'll give her a shout out in the middle of our Facebook Live. So hi, Uma.
Namaste, Uma. Hi.
So Uma said something very interesting. She said that practice makes all the difference. She knew what was going on, and she said practice makes all the difference. And along with practice, this is a very important part of this conversation. I think it's very organically arrived, but it's about Sangha. It's about the community that we create through our online teaching. Now our relationships with Uma, with with Chechi or Nishara and all of these, this is offline. We have met each other, we've built that relationship. But our relationships with online teaching students, I think that is going to be very interesting to see, because with everything moving to a very virtual space, developing that Sangha online, I'd love to listen to what you have to say about that, because we've spoken about community forever.
Yeah, that completely resonates with me, and something which we have discussed and sort of even worked towards in the past. And definitely, now there's more contact online, and even we are interacting online and say over calls. And I think this will continue for the next few months, but it'll be very interesting to see how that blends into when things change, say next year, and we resume our physical classes and workshops, and then we have these satsangas, imagine at a space, at a studio or a hall or wherever. And I think that energy would be something more different, because we have met in an online setting, and then we come together in a physical space where there's more evident energy, and there's more synergy also. So I think that would be nice. And I think now is also a time where people are connecting online because of the I think everyone has realized the need for human connection, the need for even like-minded people, in terms of those on the yogic path and spiritual path, because I think these times really need us to find strength. And yes, we find strength through practice, through our meditation, but also we find strength through sangha, through a group who are like-minded, who motivate us, who challenge us. And that's one positive. And also I think the teachers who are trained during the online TTC will be very well equipped to teach online in future. So I think that'll come as a very natural strength for them, because then they can teach overseas and remote classes. And that's another, you can say, one of the pros of the online space teaching.
Yeah, and I would love to see more of our teachers, in the online space and on the international platform. I just want teachers, if you're starting to teach online, get online. I really, really, really would love to see you more and more online. Shobhit, there was one other thing that came up when you were speaking about Sangha and about like-mindedness and all. I was just thinking that, see, when we speak, when we meet in person, there's so much about body language that we pick up. Like we know when a person suddenly ceases or stops to engage with us or just withdraws, and we know all of that. Online, how I remember teaching a class last month, and I love putting everyone on gallery view, because you can see how everyone responds, and like how their facial expressions change, how what contemplation looks like, how they're nodding and all of those things. And it's on one screen, as opposed to a shala space where you're looking and you're sensing energetically. This is a completely different level of how we sense people, and make mental notes, make notes about I think this is what this teacher resonates with, how you engage with people and all of that. So engagement, I think engagement, yeah, our that is something that should be on top of our teaching skills at this point. Teaching skills.
Yes, yes. Engagement, interpersonal skills, teaching skills. And as we continue our conversation, I'd love to ask those who have joined us, what are their views on online teaching, TTC, online TTCs and online teaching? And whoever has joined us, practitioners, teachers, and what has been your experience, and what is your view on online teacher training courses? But yeah, like you mentioned, Luvena, engagement is a very important aspect, because since we're not there in person, also every interaction is an energy exchange, and even on the online space, it does happen. Maybe it's not as tangible as when we are together, but it does happen. And for that, I think another skill that we all teachers can build and remind ourselves is to hone our interpersonal skills, hone our skills of moderating groups, on an online space.
Yeah, I think what is lacking also at this point, see, with so many teachers, so many of us actually, when we said, So I remember, so let me backtrack a little bit. One of my very first TTCs when I was a student, right? One of the question was, I don't know if you've heard this question also, it came from Pradeep at that point in time. What comes first, is yoga coming first, or is it the teacher, or is it the student, and it involved a lot of question and vichara from everyone, and everyone was putting in all different perspectives, and we came up to some kind of an agreement or disagreement or a status quo maintained on that. But you see, most teachers teach the student who's in front of them, and yoga flows. So you put the student in front. Now, when this pandemic happened upon us, we had to teach, but at the same time, what happened was teachers who were able to adapted, they adjusted to offer something to their students. So they offered something to students who were there. Teachers also need something. Teachers need something to, how do I say, to build themselves up. No?
Yes, yes. The key word here is adapt. And, like we've all had to adapt our, even if we're teaching the same practice, we have had to adapt it to the online space. And, for that, it takes a lot of awareness and also flexibility. Because if we are sort of stuck to our beliefs and values, right, then we're also not sort of progressing on the path. Because if we talk about, vairagya and non-attachment and dispassion, right, we need to also let go of our conditioned beliefs and our values and ideas too. And if you keep holding on to things, and sure, I do respect the purest view of saying that no, online space is not the right space. But at least in my experience, and what I've seen with other teachers and practitioners, those who have adapted to the status quo, to the lockdown and teaching online, they are more at peace, with what is needed and what is being offered. So there's less conflict internally, and that also shows up in practice. It shows in teaching. So in the end, I think it's about resolving conflict and just giving it a try. And if it doesn't work out, sure, take a step back, but at least be open. You should be open to it and experience it.
I think that's what it tells us about flexibility also, of the flexibility of showing up, of saying, well, we don't know exactly, if none of us knew that this would ever happen to us, but it did. And here we are. Very interestingly, a question just arose. We always, I think, when was it? Maybe about a year or two ago, Shobhit, in one of our lives, we had spoken about TTCs and what people should look for in a TTC. You remember? That was I think 2 years ago. I can't quite remember. We spoke
Yes.
about what students should be looking for and how they should, do their consumer check, their research, look and see what the school is offering, who they are, where they come from, who their teachers are. And I think this is a very important step even now, considering that anyone and everyone can offer a TTC online, especially if you've got the resource. Then you can just whip it up like magic. You can just throw in a couple of teachers and say you can teach. But this is all the more reason for us to really go back and see who are the teachers teaching, right? Where do they come from? What do they teach? How do they teach? Because everyone can be an expert, right? Everyone can, be online and say, okay, I've got to just say something for an hour and I can mute everyone at my end and just talk something and leave and I've taught a class. As opposed to a live session where someone can interrupt you and ask you a question and challenge. And also a reminder that teachers don't have all the answers. Teachers are not know-it-alls. Teachers are also figuring out both the philosophy as well as their sadhana, as well as their teaching, and not to mention the online platform itself. So many people are still figuring out how to make sense of this. So I like what I think in one of your posts also very recently, we had a conversation very similar, to remember that the teacher is human, that the teacher is, also figuring things out. And so the compassion factor, as opposed to a consumer factor, the bhava that both the teacher and the student come into the teacher training is very, very important. But
Yes, true.
all
Absolutely.
of it is important, but how do we actually, how do we get this done? How do we, What are your thoughts? I'll quickly look at the questions while you.
So actually, a
if
few
you've got any.
interesting points came up as you were talking. One was the quality of teachers. So this is something, that's why we discussed initially. The prerequisite should be a little more stringent in terms of, when we take or evaluate students for teacher training. And secondly, every Shala who's doing online TTC should have an offline program once things improve. So even those who are trained for those 2 months, 3 months, or whatever online, once things return to normal, they should have an internship of sorts physically, where people go to the Shala and they teach studio classes to get the hang of it. That's one point. Secondly, the quality of teachers, it's not in our control. Who is meant to be trained will graduate. We don't have any say in that. At least the students we can to an extent, but apart from that, we don't know, because so many online TTCs now, so many online schools, so many RYS 200s, and we can only hope that the quality remains, at least on a higher level. And we can always encourage people to follow yamas. I think yamas, when applied, even say a yama of ahimsa and satya, if applied in the right sense, sure, the numbers might be lower, but actually it will lead to a lot more justice at the level of dharma and also at the level of society. And the last point was, a teacher is also a work in progress. So those practitioners, it's a request to all of you to see us as humans. We're also learning every day, especially on teaching online, and we don't have it figured out. Some might portray it that way, but that's far from true. So see us as humans. And I believe teacher learns more than the student. So at least, whenever we do workshops, there's so much of insight, because we hear, say, 10 different perspectives. We get to see what challenges us. We get to see what motivates us. So I think teacher has more benefit, but and also we're human.
Yeah, I know, but the benefits that come from teaching, I remember very early on when you first start teaching, not just as faculty, but even as a studio teacher, for example, it can be overwhelming, when you say, hey, they're asking me something and I don't know. But over time, you have the courage to say, I don't know. For some of us, the courage comes in earlier, or it's there. Some of us find the courage to say, I don't know what it is, a little later, but it's still there. And I think there's nothing more liberating than being able to acknowledge our limitations. Those are really.
True. Like you mentioned, I think self-acceptance is the need of the hour, and all of us need to accept ourselves, not only for our strengths, but also for our insecurities, our fears, our limitations. And to me, I've seen those who have worked on themselves, especially their shadows and their demons, right? They are more at ease, and they're comfortable in their own skin. So even if sometimes we fumble or falter, it's fine. It's not a big deal as such. And I would encourage every teacher out there, whether you're starting out or have been teaching for a while, always do acknowledge your limitations, because that is what will shape us, and that is what we can derive strength from in the long run.
Yeah, that the acknowledging, the self-acceptance is, it is important. It is so important, even if it's just an asana, right? Speaking of which, I think I mentioned this, last month, as a teacher, I took a beginner class, Shobhit. I attended a beginner asana class. Okay. And I attended it through the Shivananda Institute. And I attended it as a beginner in a place where no one knew me, that the liberation of not being known in an asana class was so freeing. And at the same time, the teacher could do what she wanted. She taught me. She considered me a beginner. And I didn't fake it. I really explored it, because even in TTC, we keep saying, right, it's always important once in a while to take a fresh beginner's class, because the cues or the alignment or, the pause that a beginner takes gives them so much insight into not just the asana, but the thoughts that are going in your head. Because so many of us look for perfection, not just as a teacher trainer, not just as faculty, even as asana practitioners, or anything that we do, especially for online. That letting go of that need for perfection, to be a perfectionist. And this is too much, this is big words coming from someone like me, but okay, you're laughing, is it?
Yes, please go on.
So, but it is, Shobhit, it was a very reflective and introspective moment, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. In fact, I think the practice that I took away is more nurturing for me as an individual. Of course, I added my own through my sadhana after that, but it has been something that has been very supporting, because it doesn't feel like a pressure for anything. And I think all of these things come into play when you come to online TTC, because it's not just online TTC, it's even online teaching, just teaching, where you know see, in our culture we do give a lot of space for the teachers, right? We do give a lot of understanding, and a lot of respect is one thing, but we also put them high up. And then if we don't consider them as humans, then the acceptance, not just of ourselves, but of them also falters. So yeah, there are a lot of things. And like we rightly said when we began, some of these things come up and we know what we are thinking of, but then for so many others, we're still just fumbling and trying to say, okay, what.
You're on mute, Luvena. Your last sentence could not be heard.
My last sentence was, okay, I'll go and check what comments we have, and you can take it on from there.
Okay. Yeah, but that's a very nice point. The having the attitude of a beginner or of a learner or a student is very important. So sometimes, as teachers, we become conditioned in our own ways, and the experience sometimes can get to the head. Also, the validation from students in classes can sometimes affect the ego, not in the healthy sense. And I think every teacher must go through this phase to understand, what a pursuit of being humble can be, or what letting go of this attachment to identity can be. And I think, I'm sure you had a great experience because you went there not as Luvena Angel that we all know. You went there as, a practitioner who is really yearning to learn the practice and, take it as a takeaway for your personal sadhana. And I think that's why it was so sort of transformative for you, though it was a simple Shivananda class. And I think this is what all teachers can remind ourselves to, that we are still a beginner, because we may think we know it all. We might have RYT 200, 500, all that, but actually, how much of yoga do we really know? There's so much, and it could take lifetimes to actually perfect and master shastras, or even asanas. So that I think every day we should just wake up and say that, okay, I don't know everything and I'm still learning. I know that's why what student has to say is a lot, because we learn from a student's perspective, because that is a beginner's perspective. And we sort of see things more from a practitioner's point than a teacher's point, or a textbook or a scriptural perspective. So that's a human touch where I think all teachers should strive for, saying that, yeah, we are students, we are beginners in our own ways, but we learn with every step.
Yeah. No, I can vouch for learning. That's all I've been doing these past few months. I see Marlene's comment here, where she speaks about the energy as a practitioner, the energy as a YTT participant, of how they would, this is like for all of us. Marlene and I and you would probably be the same group of people who have done offline TTCs before. We may speak as teachers, she will speak as a practitioner or as a student, and we know what that tangible energy is. I think right now we'll just have to go with it and see what energy we can create, because it is possible. I in the courses that we taught, that I taught also, and that you also taught, we had a group of people. We had 20, and that's almost just a little shy of a regular YTT batch. So we had 20, 22 people in our batches, and that online Zoom cohort did have an energy of their own. When you create breakout rooms and you ask them to interact, and they chat on the side, and there is a conversation going on, so they do bond with each other. But I think this is up to us to explore the different platforms we use, explore how we can reach out and create that community, Marlene, even if it is through Zoom or WhatsApp. I know earlier we used to say it's a lot of digital overload. But then Shobit's an expert at taking digital fasts, and so he knows how to ground himself after that. But we all do that, no, Shobit, one way or the other. You
Yeah.
do that a lot, so you do that for everyone.
No, I do it on your behalf too.
I know, that's what I
No,
said.
but in fact, Luvena and I have been joking about, that I should challenge her openly on social. That,
Hang on. Don't take this opportunity to say Luvena and I were joking. Cut
but
the chase.
so the thing was, I would challenge Luvena on social media to take a day off without technology, because Luvena is highly active. Of course, her work needs her to be, but I personally feel, knowing her as a friend now, that she all of us benefit from a day off. So I would like to challenge you, Luvena, to take one day off. You decide what the day is, and when you want to do it. It can be next month, whenever, but one day off, no technology, and then you can follow up on that.
With you, huh? Okay, fine.
So,
I just stepped right into it, didn't I? I remember. So let's share a little joke before we wind up very quickly. There was this Facebook live or a recording that Shobit and I were doing a couple of years ago, and when we logged out, there was Shobit's profile and my profile on his Facebook page on the desktop, and in the hour that we had logged out, Shobit had 300 messages or notifications, and I had 100 and something. And Shobit has a screenshot of that somewhere to say how much the world misses me or how much am I missing out. And I think for a few days he kept saying FOMO to me. FOMO.
maybe there is a underlying FOMO.
I don't know. Okay, we'll now that you have actually challenged me online and we've got people who have listened, and now this is on Facebook Live and recorded, I shall let you know. And before we wind up, Shobit, two questions for both of us, but I'll ask first so you can answer, and then I'll think of my answer. First is, what have you been learning? Okay, the past month. Okay. And the second question is, what will you be teaching in the upcoming months?
These are both wonderful questions. So what have I been learning? Actually, the past week or so has been, I've been filtering the information I'm sort of taking in. I've been reducing the sensory impression. So I've not been doing too much online learning as such, but I am reading a bit on Bhagavad Gita and chanting a bit of it. That's my learning. In terms of script Shastra, it's more of Bhagavad Gita, listening to chants, chanting it, and also reading the translations. And yeah, mainly that. And teaching. So yeah, I've been taking a break. I've not been teaching as much. I'm just sort of spending more time on self-care and practice. So I have nothing planned as of now, but, to be very honest. So I have no. I like your metaphor, inhale, exhale thing. So I have no. There's right now inhalation and just a regular exhalation. There's no longer exhalation for the public, the audience.
Right. Actually, I'm very surprised that that you were also on that same mode, because that was how my last month went. I hardly taught anything, and this month is still a 50-50 moment. But last month and this month I've been doing a lot of my inhale bit, actually. So there's a lot that I've been studying, and that actually helps support me. I've been so apart from my yoga sutras, I'm also studying the Vedanta a little bit with Tattva Bodha. I'm studying Sanskrit, that's happening. I did the Yoga Nidra program with Swamiji and Swami Yogaratna, for those of you who don't know who I refer to. And I'm looking forward to my program with Pradeep, because that is something I've missed for many years now. So it's nice to go back, to be in an online classroom with your teacher, your mentor, and that's going to be just, I think we just missed each other, right? So in terms of our schedule for the program with Pradeep.
Yes. So, I think we always say that we should keep in touch with the teachers. I know I'm in touch with one of my teachers who's right here on this screen. And
I was going to ask you who. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so we're doing a program with Pradeep too this month, and that's on the online space.
Yeah.
And but that's a deep inhalation. That's a long
It
inhalation.
is. It
Yours
is. Yeah.
and speak
It's
Vedanta.
because yeah, no, it's true. It is a deep inhalation and a very long one, but it's a much needed one, Shobhit. I was doing a lot. I was running around. I was teaching a lot, and teachers need to watch out for burnout. Not just in asana teaching, but sometimes in the doing and the giving and the externalization of things, you need to pause and just take in. So on that note, because I had told some of my students, about a program. So this month, what I'll be teaching are two things only. I'll be teaching a small weekend Ayurveda and aromatherapy program, and a mantra and meditation one. So that's coming up. So 4 classes only, 2 for the Ayurveda and aromatherapy and 2 for the mantra and meditation. And I'm really looking forward to it, looking forward to them, because the group of people who have come through so far, and I'm almost full, and I'm probably going to close registrations in the next 2 or 3 days, but there have been people who have sponsoring my courses, for others. So that's why I'm keeping it still open, because I'll be announcing that today, and I'm announcing it here now. So there are some scholarships on offer, because some very kind people have paid for others to study. So that's a beautiful way in which we build community, not just within teachers but externally as well. So yeah,
That's a really nice gesture. I've not heard of this too often, and I really appreciate whoever's doing it. That
yeah.
whoever is sponsoring someone else's membership or participation.
Yeah.
It's really
I
nice.
did that, Shobit, because I realized that people sometimes don't know how they can help, and we know, sometimes how we really we budget, and yoga teachers also don't have, a lot of disposable income sometimes, right? And it helps when they feel supported by the community. So you see, in earlier times, not all yogis actually earned a financial living. They were taken care and supported by the community. What better way than this? So when I had actually put out the message, I shared it in the literature, telling people that if you would like to support a student, then let me know. Or and many of them have not only paid for themselves but also sponsored. So it is a very heart-centric space, and that's why I feel very, very happy to be with these people. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking that, Shobit, this is the time you said that we would inevitably wind up. So I'm not going to
Yes.
say anything now. I'm going to keep quiet.
Yeah. We had aimed for 30 minutes, but as you know, Luvena is very articulate, and Luvena is a wonderful. She has a lot of stories to share and a lot of messages to share. So we always keep a buffer with Luvena. It's called Luvena buffer of 10 minutes.
That is not we. That is only Shobit, and that's only Shobit saying we always keep. There's no such thing as a Luvena buffer. Only Shobit talks about it.
Yes, but that brings us to the end of our FB live, and we can say goodbye with a takeaway message.
My takeaway message, everyone, is online teaching is where we are right now, be it for YTT or for studio. So what I would ask all of you is to do your research. Just do your research. And for teachers, just step into who you are. Step in with authenticity and teach from the heart. Don't let go of perfection, and you will be okay. Over to you, Shobhit.
That's a wonderful message. I would say um, to it's specific to online teaching, to not perceive the laptop or the phone as another object. It's just a medium, and we can also you can visualize. So even if you're not able to see them in person, you can use the faculty to visualize that they're in the same space, and that can actually bring about sort of a union in energy. And to be open. The second thing would be to be open and to adapt to what the need is, and again, it is very subjective, but I think the more open we are to adapt to what the need is and how we teach, I think it'll be easier for us as teachers. Also, it'll be easier for the practitioners to absorb that knowledge. And as always, keep your practice as a priority, and that's it.
Right.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone. And thank you for joining us. You can always put in your questions, even if you've missed us now, and we can get to them later. And thank you. Thank you, Shobit. It was
Thank you,
good
Luvina.
seeing
Thank
with
you,
you,
Marie.
and thank you for the challenge. And thank you for naming a buffer on, after me. So I'll see you soon
Yes.
and take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.